The most populous US state is ordered to stay home as the coronavirus takes a firmer foothold. California brings in the most drastic containment measures seen in America to date, with over 1,000 people in the Golden State testing positive. France hunkers down for a fourth day with the partial lockdown imposed on Tuesday, widely expected to be extended. President Macron will be sitting down with Edouard Philippe and other ministers this Friday morning to discuss their response to the crisis. And the Italian government prepares to tighten the belt and ring in greater restrictions on the movement of people, with the death toll from the virus officially overtaking the one recorded in mainland China. Hello, I'm Thomas Waterhouse. This is the latest world news from Paris. First this hour, we bring you the latest on the most sweeping measures taken by any US state to try and control COVID-19. The governor of California has told those living in the Golden State that their immediate future is not so sparkling. 40 million people there have been ordered to stay home, except for essential work, exercise or errands. 18 people are already known to have died in California, and more than 1,000 others are infected. France 24's Emerald Maxwell tells us more.
Effective immediately, the order affects nearly 40 million people.
A state as large as ours, a nation state, is many parts, but at the end of the day, we're one body. There's a mutuality and there's a recognition of our interdependence that requires of this moment that we direct a statewide order for people to stay at home.
It's the most dramatic containment measure by a US state yet against COVID-19. California's Governor Gavin Newsom said exceptions to the stay-at-home rule would include trips to grocery stores, doctors and pharmacies and laundromats, as well as workers in critical infrastructure sectors. Newsom suggested the executive order would last for at least 8 weeks, but was vague about how it would be enforced, saying that he believed Californians would self-regulate. Earlier, the governor asked President Donald Trump to send a US Navy hospital ship to the port of Los Angeles immediately, as projections showed more than half of California's population catching coronavirus in 8 weeks if no mitigation efforts were made. That would mean a shortfall of hospital beds.
It's about 19,543 people that would need to be hospitalized under that scenario, above the existing capacity of our system.
The US's most populous state and the world's 5th largest economy, California already has more than 1,000 confirmed coronavirus cases and the 3rd highest death toll in the United States after Washington State and New York.
Well, Americans are not just stocking up on essential food and medical supplies. The pandemic has led to a surge in gun sales, with many people saying they feel the need to protect themselves from theft or looting should the situation deteriorate. Our correspondent Elisa Caverly has sent this next report from Los Angeles.
They arrived before the store even opened. Long lines of Los Angeles residents who will wait hours to buy a gun. It's a scene that has become common over the past few days. With the threat of coronavirus, these Americans are preparing for the worst.
People just feel, I guess, a sense of safety, you know? Like if someone comes in your house and they have a gun, you're at a disadvantage instantly.
Nothing gets done panicking, but people will be out there taking advantage of everybody out there that doesn't have protection. It's a natural born fact. It is proven that a neighborhood with guns are less likely to have criminals coming over there because they know where the people have guns at.
He can help you right down there in the alley.
It's a scenario that has a lot of people lining up to buy a firearm for the first time.
Other than that, this is a Glock I own personally, so I love it.
In California, a criminal background check is required, and people must wait an additional 10 days before they can bring their new gun home. At this Los Angeles gun store, new deliveries arrive daily and are sold almost immediately.
2-3 boxes, it's 50 per box.
I'll take 4. The increase has been probably about 1,000%. Most people are buying what they know, what they see in movies. They're buying shotguns. They're buying a lot of Glocks. You know, that's our #1 selling gun right now because it's reasonably priced. People are really panicking. You know, it's been really crazy.
Similar to toilet paper and canned foods that are disappearing off the shelves, the owner of this gun store says that could be the case with guns as well. If he can't get his daily delivery, he won't be able to keep up with the demands.
A new day has broken here in France as the nation wakes up on day 4 of its COVID-19 lockdown. The foreign minister has just said that the government will take additional measures, if necessary, to limit the movement of people, with the strict measures brought in at noon on Tuesday for 15 days, widely expected to be extended. Jean-Yves Le Drian says that 130,000 French nationals are also still trying to return home from overseas. Now, President Macron is scheduled to meet with his ministers to talk about the lie of the land this Friday morning, a day after the director of the country's health agency announced 108 new deaths, bringing the national death toll to 372. Our team has sent this report on the current lockdown from the western Paris suburb of Boulogne-Billancourt.
Across France, parks like this are all closed to the public. But with the return of warmer weather, the lure of heading outdoors is proving hard for some to resist, just as long as they fall into one of the 5 categories the authorities have specified.
On a un peu de temps et il fait beau, il faut profiter, rester en forme aussi. Les gens gardent les distances entre eux, donc ça va.
Ma société a fermé lundi, c'est anticipé. M. Macron m'a autorisé à aller à Franprix, donc j'y suis allé. C'est pour ce soir, ça.
Allez, James, on y va. Je sors à peu près 4 fois par jour avec les chiens. Je fais les allées de Boulogne autour de chez moi. Mamie, papy, on y va. Ils sont assez âgés, ils ont 83 ans. C'est plus eux que je dois raisonner parce qu'ils auraient plus tendance à aller à droite à gauche.
For families which live apart, it's even harder.
Je vois plus mes amis, on peut plus trop sortir et c'est un peu difficile. Parce qu'on n'a pas tout à manger, on ne peut pas trop sortir.
On suit le confinement, on sort que quand on est obligé comme là maintenant. Et
en plus, ils m'ont annulé la classe neige.
Les personnes non autorisées à être dans la rue sont invitées à regagner leur domicile. Vous pouvez sauter d'une amende de 135 € dès à présent. Nous invitons donc à regagner votre domicile.
Moi, j'ai l'attestation qui va bien pour emmener les enfants chez leur papa.
Sometimes police still need to intervene.
Il faut vraiment que vous rentriez chez vous, c'est important.
Le problème, c'est qu'en entre tout, ils sont contraires. Vous savez, 4 jours qu'on est confinés, on est.
Dites-vous que le plus important,
tous les 4 jours, prendre l'air avec une petite fille dans un appartement.
Mais pensez aux personnels hospitaliers qui, eux, reçoivent les malades tous les jours, ils en peuvent plus. Ils se disent, mais qu'est-ce qu'ils font, les Français?
On a l'impression qu'on respecte la personne.
Je sais bien.
Disons qu'on peut sortir son chien, mais pas son enfant.
It's impossible to monitor how much time each person spends outside. And with spring causing people to drop their guard, COVID-19 continues to find its way to the heart of French society.
Well, staying with France, there's no reason why we should be the victims of a government failure to plan. That's what a member of France's top police union has said, with the Alliance body giving President Macron's ministers a deadline of this Friday to supply the necessary face masks, gloves and hand gel to allow officers to carry out their patrols and checks in safety. If those demands aren't met, the union's members are threatening to walk off the job at this very difficult time. Well, staying with Europe, a grim milestone was reached in Italy on Thursday. The southern member state has now surpassed China when it comes to the number of people who've died, with the death toll standing at least 3,405. The government is now seriously considering extending the country's current lockdown, and the Interior Ministry has announced that over 1.2 million people have been stopped and checked by police in the past week for being outside, and that 51,000 have been fined for violating the restrictions. Claire Rush reports now on a country buckling under the pressure.
A grim scene in the northern Italian town of Bergamo. Army tanks transporting coffins to a neighboring province. The local cemetery here is over capacity. No more room for the coronavirus dead.
La situazione è in continua evoluzione, noi abbiamo un numero di decessi che è 5 volte il normale per una città come Bergamo.
Italy's death toll has now surpassed that of China, a dire milestone that's prompted authorities to extend the current nationwide lockdown past the original April 3rd deadline. New measures to limit movement and social contact have also been announced.
Per cui I cittadini non dovranno più recarsi dai medici di base per la prescrizione dei farmaci, ma avranno un codice che indicheranno in farmacia per poter ritirare I farmaci.
The measure aims to ease the colossal strain being placed on Italy's healthcare system, which is overburdened, understaffed, and lacking key equipment. But in the face of crisis, gestures of unity and solidarity have flourished across the country, including this message from Pope Francis.
Per necessità I nostri spazi possono esserci ristretti alle pareti di casa, ma abbiate un cuore più grande, dove l'altro possa sempre trovare disponibilità e accoglienza.
The government says it may consider even stricter rules for the extended lockdown, including banning all outdoor exercise. Police are now stepping up checkpoints to enforce the quarantine. According to the government, more than 40,000 people have been fined for violating it since it was imposed last week.
To Germany now, where the Bavarian town of Mitterteich is the first there to go into total lockdown, with the southern state one of the worst hit. Chancellor Angela Merkel told the nation earlier this week that this is the worst crisis for Germans since the Second World War, with borders shut to stem the contagion. Our bureau in Berlin has sent us this roundup.
I'm standing in a public market in Germany, and while some people are still coming, I think everybody here knows that that could change from one day to the next. Life in Germany in the time of coronavirus really varies according to your age. If you're a child, you're at home, out of school, for at least a month. You're being taken care of by a babysitter or perhaps by your parents, because German Chancellor Angela Merkel has told people they should try to stay at home and work at home, warning that up to 70% of Germans may become infected. And work has already changed. The BMW and Volkswagen plants, for instance, are already closed in some instances. Everyday life for an adult will involve perhaps working at home. Going out is only possible at lunchtime. Restaurants and cafes are closed at 6 p.m. Germany has also closed its frontiers, and it is telling Germans who return home from vacation they may have to self-quarantine for up to 2 weeks. Angela Merkel, however, has sought to reassure companies, saying she will do whatever it takes, including deficit spend, in order to keep Europe's biggest economy afloat. If you are an older person and perhaps more inclined to pray, to have a religious practice, well, you're going to have to do that at home as well, because Germany's synagogues, churches, and mosques are closed for the indefinite future.
The British Prime Minister has meanwhile said that he's absolutely confident that the UK can send COVID-19 packing within the next 12 weeks. That's if all the steps outlined by his Conservative government are adhered to, such as social distancing. 144 British citizens are now known to have died from the virus. That's a 40% rise in just one day. And there are over 2,600 confirmed cases. Let's listen now to some of Boris Johnson's latest comments.
And I do think, looking at it all, that we can turn the tide within the next 12 weeks, and I'm absolutely confident that we can send a coronavirus packing in this country, but only if we take the steps, we all take the steps that we have outlined, and that is vital, because that is how we're going to reduce the peak.
And finally this hour here on France 24, we can show you how the people of France have been showing their gratitude to the country's medical staff who are working tirelessly around the clock on the front line. In what's become an evening tradition, on Thursday at 8 p.m. prompt, residents flung open their windows and stepped out onto their balconies to cheer and applaud. We can leave you now with these pictures from Paris and from Marseille. Our coverage of the coronavirus pandemic continues here on France 24. Do stay tuned.